In an online learning environment, students are faced with more than just classroom work. Isolation from the classroom itself, as well as peers and professors, presents itself with unusual circumstances that a student in a typical brick-and-mortar school would not face. This isolation can lead to poor performance on an online student's part and ultimately lead to incompletion or failure of the course. Failing to connect with peers and professors is a major adversity that needs to be overcome while attending an online learning school of any kind. The inability to talk to your peers, your classmates, your professor one-on-one can make it hard to understand more complex problems, and these problems can also lead to not really wanting to do your schoolwork or just basically feeling like you're not really part of the organization, school, student body, or teacher-student relationship. This is hard to overcome, but it can be done. Another problem with online learning is how the course material itself is delivered. When you're online, all you really have is what you can get through your computer. It either be audio, it either be video, and any material you get through the mail via books, CDs, but it's still very visual based. There's very little touching, feeling, reaching out to really touch something, to learn it. So if you are an extreme tactile or extreme sight listener, you're at a major disadvantage. Dr. Glasser, an American psychiatrist from the University of Michigan, had done a study how we retain data and how we can keep this data for long-term usage. In the study, he discovered that by reading, we only retain about 15% of what we actually read. By hearing, only about 25%. Through sight, 30%. However, he discovered that when reading, hearing, and visually seeing the data is put together, there's a synergy that happens as far as retention of data. When we see the data as well as hear it, i.e. in a lecture environment, we retain about 45 to 50% of that. When we discuss it with others, other students, other teachers, we retain as much as 70%. And from personal experience of teaching to someone else, it's 80 to 90. So we can see that in an online learning environment, a lot of this is taken down. However, these gaps can be filled via software and different technologies that can help bring the student body and the teaching staff together to help make online learning easier. In my conclusion, online learning, while it is difficult, success can be achieved by utilization of new technologies, current technologies, and physically making an effort to get with other students, to get with professors, to learn your data and to learn not only what you're learning, but how to communicate with somebody when you're not physically there.
How does having more than one type of media help taking a course online?
Having more than one type of media, so you have a CBT, computer-based training simulator, and you're able to visually watch a video and see something happen, and then have a textbook and read it. You are, as we see from our graph, incorporating the sight and audio side of things to increase data retention.
Why would I need to interact with other students if I'm not required to?
Because interaction with other students, as we have seen and we have heard, greatly increases the amount of retention of data. It also breaks up the monotony and isolation that taking a class online can cause, because you can be 100 miles away from somebody and never ever see or talk to them, and you can take classes with them, and you're missing out on an opportunity to go, hey, I may know something that you don't know, or you may understand something that I'm not getting, and by having that cohort together, you can increase basically your overall scores and grade point average.
You said that technology can help to fill the void of isolation. What software could be used for that?
There are many different types of software. Simple things like Skype for online video phone messages, Blackboard, Back to Class, School to Go, and Adobe Classroom are all great tools because they allow you to virtually be in a classroom or virtually be with somebody else. You may not be able to physically touch them, but you can talk to them, you can see them, and you can transfer files and text back and forth to one another. It would be like having a study group, or in the case of a professor being just in the classroom, minus the ability to physically touch them, but you would be able to interact with all their senses. So to recap the information I have given you, we have seen how traditional learning, students have a quote-unquote advantage. However, if you cannot attend a regular class and you cannot physically be in the classroom, online learning is an outstanding alternative. The education is just as good, however, you have to work at it a little bit harder. You physically have to make the effort to get in contact with your professors, to get in contact with your peers, to close the gap in distance. By doing so, the amount of data you will retain and the amount of information you learn will increase. Technology has given us the means and ability to do this. By utilizing new technologies, we are able to close that gap, and it is almost as though we are in the classroom instead of miles and miles apart from one another. This will allow for greater and more prolific use of online learning in the future, as well as a more credibility given in the work environment.